Joining us, my name is Amanda Bovee, and this is my husband.
Hi, I'm Jason Bovee.
You want to scoot over? There we go. I like him close to me. So we are starting our podcast. If you are new to my channel has been all things revival. And so I shared a couple weeks ago where we are transitioning my channel into now our channel because we are going to share the last year of our life, actually the last 14 years of our lives. And in this show, we are going to be highlighting what God did. And he did a lot, and he's still doing a lot. So we can get into what it is about. The show will be hosted bi-weekly. It is not live. It will be uploaded, and then eventually we'll go into live. You think?
Yeah. Currently, we're going to do it bi-weekly and just put out new material every 2 weeks. And eventually, we'll go into weekly.
Right. So thank you for joining us. We are going to share what the last year of our life has looked like. It's been a roller coaster, huh, babe?
Has been a roller coaster. Has been a roller coaster.
So we are inviting you to sit at our table and hear how God saved our marriage from divorce.
Yep. From divorce and several other things too.
Yes.
So
we're going to speak into mental health. It's really important that we speak into PTSD, marriage, all of the things, and go from there.
yeah. Okay. Well,
All right.
You want to start?
All right.
Go ahead.
All right. So we, on March 5th, our whole life changed. We separated, and we were on the course to divorce. It was pretty like we were getting divorced.
We were.
That was the breaking of the marriage
Very true.
on March 3rd. So it was a hard year. We should have got tissues, babe.
No, we don't need tissues.
I'll need tissues.
So I guess sleeves.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So, exactly a year ago. Our lives changed completely. So, Amanda and I have been together since about June of 2010. We got married in 2012, and we have 3 children. 2 from her first marriage and 1 from my first marriage. And we all kind of lived happily ever after for a while, and the wheels came off the bus exactly a year ago. So for several reasons. I mean, one of the biggest reasons was, I dealt with PTSD. It was one of the things that was bothering me, and I spent years struggling with it. And the other part about it is we just really didn't know how to live together. We never healed from any of the damages of our first marriages, and damages from our, from just life before each other. So, but we loved each other very deeply, and we started our lives together, and until last year. So, I guess we can probably just take it from your perspective first. I guess just explain. Oh, I guess maybe it'd be better just to explain from the beginning, just everything, how we met and what led us to today.
Yeah. So we were, we actually met when I was in high school. And so we've known each other since I was 17 years old, and we dated in high school and then broke up, ended up married to other people, had our children, and got divorced, and then God brought us back together. So I say this time is like take 3 of our relationship.
Yeah, we called it the third time.
Third time.
But we never really, we separated, but there wasn't a break,
Yeah, we were still married, but both had divorce attorneys, and it was very much that it was without a miracle this train stopped.
Very true.
So we got married in 2012, and it was just, we were very busy, and like I said, you said we didn't know how to really be married to each other, and we loved each other deeply. I think we got through a lot of storms, but I think it was 2018 that really things started to get very difficult. We had a business, he had a business, and so he worked. When I say this man works, like, I'm not kidding. He could easily throw down 70 to 80 hours a week without a blink of an eye.
Yeah, very true. That was part of the illness I was dealing with too, though. So I wasn't a drinker, and I didn't use any drugs or anything like that. So I self-medicated with work. And, when things would really, when the mental illness would really start to really start to beat me up, I'd just work more, which only further exacerbated the symptoms, because
You're tired.
I'm tired and I'm cranky, and I can't really control my emotions too well. I couldn't before. I got help. It just made it much worse, trying to control all of that when you're exhausted. But we did. We had a lot of things that were working against us. We had a business. She was in school off and on
For 10 years.
working on her career. We had kids.
Yes.
We both worked full time. Our kids had activities in school. We were very, very busy. We had a mortgage. We had a rental house where we had renters. Just, if there was a stressful situation for our marriage, we had it.
Yeah. And I also think that we didn't really have the tools. We didn't really have the tools to communicate, so communication was not very strong. And, I think just us really knowing, I think two healed people work better in a marriage.
Yeah, that's true. But right now, I guess they need to know. We're kind of leaving them in the dark. We know we're kind of going through all the problems, but maybe we just go through the beginning and talk about what led us. Well, I don't know. I guess we're kind of doing that. If you haven't figured it out, this is our first podcast, so we're just
Welcome.
we're reading the instructions as we're going along.
We'll figure it out. This is how we do life together. Now we figure it out. So in 2018, things really kind of hit the fan because we had moved into a new home. Our kids went into a new district. We had the store. I was still in school. It was just like we were two very busy people.
Very.
And I really didn't know how to get through to you. That was my biggest thing. I would just pray, like, Lord, I want him to hear me. I want him to hear me.
Yeah.
And I wanted us to be on the same team. I felt like the enemy was really good at putting us against each other, and still tries sometime. We're still trying to figure that out because I'm a little stubborn. I am.
Well, we're both stubborn. We're both stubborn, and at least now we can hear each other and recognize that, and you're self-aware. Then it wasn't. Then it was just one argument after another, and we weren't willing to listen to each other. We weren't willing to compromise or listen to reason.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the biggest issues. We had no communication skills whatsoever. We communicated by shouting at each other.
Yeah, or blocking each other out.
Or blocking each other out. Right.
So we in 2023, March 5th, it was the breaking point.
It was a breaking point. and again, we were coming out of some very stressful situations. So again, at the time, we had a business. We both worked full time. Amanda was in a new job. She had started a new career about 6 months prior, and she was working in addiction. And although I'll let her speak for that. Although the hours were probably much better for her there, where she was working. It was a very toxic environment that she was dealing with, a lot of different personalities constantly, and I think that weighed on a lot of it. And then she was dealing with me and in my situation, and we had just married our oldest daughter, and we were going on a trip to see my brother in Colorado. Plus, we were dealing with the rental house, shutting down the business because by that time the business had just failed. We were done. We decided to pull the plug on it, and it was a very stressful time in our life, and we didn't communicate any of that with each other. And I think there was a lot of factors.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and that's where we were at. We're gonna have to do a lot of editing.
Yeah, we are.
I have to do a lot of editing.
We will. Well, listen, you just come along on this ride. We're going to share all of our stuff, the
Right.
good, the bad, the ugly, the hard, the beautiful, the mess. The mess turned into a message. So March 5th, we got into the worst fight that we had ever had. And it was like lines drawn in the sand. And I have, like, for me, from my perspective, I laid it down and I said, Lord, I'm like, I can't do anymore. Like, I don't know what to do. So we separated, and you went on your own journey and I went on my own journey. Still very much wanting to reconcile, but we kind of had to wiggle through that. But we both got divorce attorneys, and we both were trying to figure out how to just heal ourselves. You know what I mean? I've prayed for our marriage for a long time, and I was praying for his healing because I could see. I always knew, and I'm sure if you're comfortable, you can share into this, but I always knew like suicide was always knocking at the door. I always sensed it, but you never told me. But I sensed that. And while we were separated, the Lord would have me literally wake me up in the middle of the night. I'll never forget. It was like April. I think it was April, maybe May. But I heard a gunshot, and the Lord woke me up in the middle of the night and said, pray for his life, pray for his life. And I knew that spirit of suicide was like lingering. It was trying to get you. And as much as I loved you, I knew that I had to lay you on the altar because I didn't know how to do it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we ended up separated, and I don't know if you want to share like what your year was like.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, Amanda's always kind of had she's always been strong in her faith, and we have tried to find church after church after church, one that we're both comfortable at. We'd find one that I was comfortable at, but one that she wasn't, or one that she was comfortable at, and one that I wasn't. It was very difficult finding that happy medium for both of us, and we did. We finally did. She found a church that she was comfortable with, and we started consistently going. That was always kind of the issue. My work schedule, always worked on Sundays, so going to traditional church just really wasn't an option. So we found a church that met on Wednesdays, and we started consistently going. And she has always tried to, to save me, if you will, get me into some sort of a routine with my faith, help me find my faith. And it was just a little bit of oppositional reflex. She keep pushing it on me, pushing it on me so hard that I would just keep pushing it back and pushing away from it. And I was always, curious about Christianity, and I grew up with it. I just really wasn't following it. And So we had been going to this church. I thought things were going pretty well, and I just wasn't buying into it correctly, I guess, and just wasn't following it the way I was supposed to. And
What do you mean by that, babe?
what do you mean? Like which part?
Do you feel like not fully surrendering to the Lord, or to
Yeah,
walking in it?
I certainly don't have. I didn't have then what I have now. So there was something that changed, and I think it had to do with several different factors. One, I always kind of relied on you for that, that faith. You always did the praying. You always did, the kind of the spiritual leading in the household, and I always relied on you for that. So I didn't take any steps to finding my own faith. I just kind of rode on your coattails. And this all leads into what happened last March, but I just had to kind of let everybody know that there was at least some knowledge of my faith. It wasn't like I just never believed in Christianity or Christ at all.
You always believed in Christ.
Right.
I always say it like, sometimes from my perspective, I felt like he knew of Jesus, but he didn't know Jesus. Like, he believed that Jesus died on the cross. And if I'm saying it incorrectly, then tell me.
No, you're not. You're not saying it incorrectly at all. I'm just trying to set the stage for everybody that doesn't know us, and where we came from, where I came from. And because it all has to do with what happened to me and how it changed me. So, and it's part of our story, as much as we're not going to give credit to that place. It's part of our story. But, so the only spiritual guidance I knew was my wife and the place that we were attending at the time. I'm not going to say it. And so things were coming along very well, I thought, and we hit a breaking point. We hit a breaking point too, where I was exhausted trying to shut down our business. And
Background. Do you hear it? Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
We were shutting down our business, and that was stressful enough. That was stressful in its own right. And,
Yeah. There's a lot happening in our church, so just you're gonna have to roll with us, okay? This is podcast number 1. We got a lot of people here moving because we're at the Move Church. If you don't see that,
exactly.
We'll get into the Move Church, okay?
But
so you can pick up some background, but that's okay. We gonna run. We gonna run, baby.
All right. So, anyways, we were shutting down our business. We had a firearms store. We were selling. We sold guns and sporting goods and stuff like that. So there was a big process in shutting that store down. It was very difficult to do that. It was easier to open that store than it was to close it. It was very stressful and difficult. And again, we were still using. We still had our full-time jobs. We were still trying to run our lives together, and it sounds like it's easy. You just close it. Well, it wasn't that easy closing the business down. I mean, we invested in that building over 5 years, and there was an enormous amount of debt. It was an enormous amount of paperwork that had to be precise, and it was very stressful. And then we had our daughter's wedding, and we were going on vacation, and I couldn't handle it anymore. I just reached a breaking point where I couldn't handle it, and something had to go. And we had just gotten back off of vacation, and I think my anxiety was really moving kind of difficult, but there was something going on with you too. We were both triggered, and a lot of that had to do with the wedding, with our daughter's wedding, and so there's a lot to unpack here. So,
I felt very rejected.
yeah,
And that was something that, like, one of the things that you struggled with is, like, you would pull away. So right when I felt like, we were supposed to enjoy our daughter's wedding together, we both enjoyed it, but we didn't get to enjoy it together because we fought pretty much the whole way. And we were living in separate bedrooms for the last 6 months on top of that. And so I felt very much rejected. And so that rejection, and that's like my trigger. My trigger is like rejection.
yeah,
So that had reached a boiling point from my perspective that I wanted to share that with you, but you didn't know how to share that with me because when you were mad, it's like you didn't know how to shut it off. He says this all the time, that he had two emotions. It was like really happy or really mad. And that was true. That was how the last 14 years was for you. So when I wanted to be able to share that together, I felt like the enemy stole that.
right.
And then we went on a vacation, and traveling was always very difficult because his anxiety would get very escalated during trips.
It was hard. Yeah,
We didn't take family vacations because I might have to text her.
Yeah.
Can you text her just so she knows we're picking all that up? So when we would vacation, we went on one family vacation together. It was very difficult. So vacationing with the PTSD was very, very, very difficult. Because I think you were just always on, protective and hyper alert.
Yeah.
I
was. There's gonna have to be a lot of editing.
It's okay.
I was on.
Roll with us.
I'm just giving it space so we know where to cut it out at.
Yeah.
Yeah, part of that sickness, but also it did give me anxiety to travel. But I don't think we'd be completely honest if we said that, not taking the family vacations was all because of that. I mean, we were very busy.
Yes, we didn't prioritize it. It
No.
wasn't only because of that, because we
Right.
did not prioritize it. We didn't plan. We just kind of went through the motions of being busy. And that's very true. If the devil can't get you, he'll keep you busy.
Right.
He did that very well for us. And we didn't know how to take a step back and say, this is what our family needs to recalibrate.
Yeah.
So, and then when we did go on vacation, it was like we didn't know how to prepare the way for it.
We didn't prepare the way for it. We weren't really different than any other American family. We were just trying to make it. And,
Yes.
we allowed our careers to really get
In the way.
of
Very
a lot
much
of
so.
things.
Very much so.
And we both work jobs that are 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. We don't have office hour jobs.
Yes. We both
you
have
know,
careers.
So if I was working nights and you were working days, if you were working nights and I was working days, or I was working afternoons and you were working nights, and the kids were in school during the day, we did what we could. We were just people trying to make it. And don't forget that, you were in school a lot too.
Yes, I was in school for 10 years,
right.
on and off for 10 years.
So,
And so it was constant. And my stress was, trying to keep that afloat.
right.
So we did have a lot of factors against us.
Yeah, so when you take all of that and you put that into one can,
It
it's actually
explodes.
pretty amazing how we have stayed together this long.
It's true.
And considering what actually led to this separation is it's actually kind of petty compared to what things that we have been through before. If you think about it, it's pretty amazing. But we keep referencing it. I just kind of wanted to give a good background, but let's just go ahead and get to what had happened. So to this point, we've got all these things stacked up against us. We've got pain and hurt and trauma from our previous marriages. We've got pain and hurt and trauma from our previous lives. We've got careers. We've got education, continuing education as an adult. We've got, the issue of you've got faith and I really don't. I'm just kind of following you. We've got 2 homes. We've got a renter that brought along its own source of stress. And we were trying to control our lives without God in it at all. And, if we would have known then what we know now.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't the center. That's, that was not.
Not at all.
Yeah.
We focused on success and trying to make it. And by all intents and purposes, we were, but there was something missing from us. What was missing was
God in the middle.
Our faith. And that's what led us to March 5th of last year. So we had this horrible argument. We had just gotten back from a vacation in Colorado. We went out to see my brother in Colorado. It was our first vacation in probably a couple of years at the time. We had just married our daughter. And we come home from work. We're trying to, I guess, still decompress from, the vacation. And I remember sitting at the table. I'd worked all day. I was very proud of it. I'd worked all day on a budget. And we were working on our budget, and I think I had just gotten done cooking dinner. We were cooking salmon, and you had come in, and I was real proud. I wanted you to see the budget because I'd been working on it all day, and I thought I had it figured out pretty good. And you looked at it for a few minutes, and walked away. I got up and went into the kitchen and was finishing up dinner, I think. And if I remember right, and stop me if I'm wrong, but if I remember right, there was some agitation in the air already, and a lot of it had to do with I think we were just exhausted, and at least at the time, that's what I thought was wrong with it. And we weren't good at communicating, so we were always guessing each other's emotions. We cooked dinner, and we were watching TV, and the dogs were real agitated. I remember that because there was food around, so they were trying to get to the food. You were working on your laptop, and I was
This is just a trial run. Keep going.
so you were working on your laptop, and remember you'd set your plate off to the side. You hardly ate anything at all. And the dogs were trying to get to that food. They were upset about it.
Yeah. A little Chihuahua.
Yeah, we have a Chihuahua and two
Two
Dobermans.
Dobermans.
And
The Chihuahua was really trying to go to town.
so one dog was trying to get to the plate of food, and the other two were trying to get there first. So she was getting agitated with the dogs. And I was trying to just control the dogs. And I remember I reached down to grab the one dog, and she bit me. She bit me right on the webbing of my index finger and my thumb. And it just immediately went into a rage. And I tried to grab her, and she kept biting at me. And I remember you saying, "Stop hitting my dog." And you stood up, and we squared up with each other and just started screaming at each other. I remember that. And we went from one end of the kitchen to the other end of the living room, just yelling at each other. And I remember you putting your finger in my chest, and I slapped your hand. And when that happened, that's when just like everything just changed. And it went wrong. It all went wrong, and then we started using words like "get out" and "I'm leaving" and "divorce." And I packed my stuff, started packing things that night, and that was on a Friday. That Saturday, I spent all day moving stuff out of the house, and by Sunday, I had moved out completely, and I moved my belongings to a storage unit, and I moved myself and my things to my dad's house. So my dad, he's a snowbird, so he was in Florida at his winter home. And so I just went to stay at his summer home. And again, this is March, so it's about a month before he came back. And but yeah, that's where we were at that point. That's where the separation started.
I remember that day like it was yesterday because I remember like when it got to that. I remember the Holy Spirit saying, "This will only get worse from here for us," because we just could not. And I just remember like something I've shared this, like something just died in me. I was like, I'm hands off, Lord. Like I'm totally done. And I felt like from my perspective that I had fought as long as I had to fight. I'm like, Lord, this is the last war I'm going in because I don't, I just didn't have any more. And I think for me, I was bitter and I was hurt from living in separate rooms for 6 months and like feeling the rejection of that and not knowing how to like verbalize that, not being able to make ground from that. And I was like, this cannot be our marriage. Like, this is not what marriage is supposed to be. And it was like a light switch that day. It's something just a light switch went off.
Sure.
And not that I ever stopped loving him because that's definitely not the case. I always say this man hung the moon, but I just said there were like lines, that were drawn and because guns went a-blazing.
Yeah.
And then I just didn't know how to go back from there. So I just was like, I don't have anything left. Like in me, I was like, I don't have anything left. My cup was empty.
Sure. And I think along a lot of long lines, I was there too.
Absolutely. We both were.
I think we both thought that life was going to be better without each other. At that time, it was it was. I remember it being a very bad time for us,
Yeah.
and in the middle of that rage, I don't think I cared one way or the other. I didn't care about anything, and I just wanted to be finished with it. I think we were both there.
Yeah, we both definitely were.
Yeah.
And I think throughout this show, this may be a good ending place. But that was the day that we separated. And from there, we ended up with divorce attorneys, separate addresses. We had already separated like bank accounts and stuff like that. Had two different homes because our runner had moved out of our home and he moved in. So we're going to share more of that on this podcast, and we want to share like the last year of how God took our trials and our like. There's no way these two people are going to figure this out.
Right.
Like
Right.
these two people were not going to figure it out. So we each went on our own journey of like asking the Lord, like, what are you going to do with this marriage? But on our own, you know what I mean? Like we each had like a deeper faith walk, and maybe on the next podcast we can start with your kind of revelation of who Jesus really is.
Yeah, I mean, this is, if we took an entire day and tried to go through all of this, there's no way we'd be able to get this in a single day. But yeah, I think the next one we'll do, my road to recovery. And that road to recovery started with a suicide attempt. And recognizing that I do have a problem. Finally, after 20 years of dealing with it, I finally decided I've got a problem. It needs to be dealt with, and I can no longer do it myself. And putting down that pride to get the help was the first step, and that took a lot, and it's a lot to try to explain. I might just take the entire next podcast to explain that entire process, but for now, I want to thank you guys for listening to us, and
Welcome
thank our pastors. And
yes, yeah.
got a wonderful pastor that's allowing us to broadcast this from the move, and
That's a whole different series of us finding a church like
Yeah.
the Lord just over the last year. So again, we're going to end this here, but join us as we kind of break apart the last year after March 5th of 2023, and how God not only put himself in the core of our marriage. I know your Facebook profile picture is the one with the cross behind
Yeah.
us, and that was like our first prayer
our
service together. And so we're going to share that and share how we ended up at this church. We love our church. We love the Move Church. We always try to give a plug. But for now, we're going to end, and we kind of gave you a little bit of how we were living separate on our way to divorce, battling a lot of things, but God intervened and not only saved your life, but saved our marriage. And as of today, we still don't live together, huh, honey?
right.
We still don't. We're still in process, so we're inviting you to join in process. And one of the things that we desire is to bring other couples that have powerful testimonies, not just in marriage, but we want to highlight God's miracles because, I say this all the time, that he is alive on the earth. And he could not be.
Yeah.
Like for a lot of people, that's their reality. And I'm so thankful that God spared his life and spared our marriage. And even though we're still working it out, we're still working it out. And so we want to highlight the miracles of today because God is still a miracle working God. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever.
Yeah, our marriage, this entire year is a product of a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And this is coming from a person that I believed in God. I believed in Jesus as our Savior. I believed in all of that, but actually buying completely into it was what the issue was. Mm-hmm. And the only way that can be explained this entire last year is just a miracle. So.
Well, thank you for joining us. We are going to end here. Take care. We bless you in the name of Jesus. Join us as we share how God turned our our mess into a message, and we bring other people along for that journey as well. Be blessed.
Thank you.